live on Facebook. And it
says live streaming.
Cool. It's so funny because it's behind on this side. It still says it's setting up. So.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're live.
Awesome sauce. All right. Cool. So everybody, our attendees can come in because we have opened the door. We are here this morning talking about, can we use our innate skills to our advantage during negotiations? And my co-host is the lovely and illustrious Ayesha Hamilton, the owner at Hamilton Law, the champion of employees out there defending employees' rights, taking everybody to task who doesn't listen.
Thank you.
And I'm Alisa McCabe. I'm the owner at First Steps Financial, and we provide accounting solutions for small businesses, bringing them to success and helping them achieve their goals. Everything that we talk about today is purely our opinion, even though we're probably 100% right. No.
Always.
No, it's purely our opinion, and it's meant for informational purposes only, and it's here to develop discussion. So I love our discussion today, because Ayesha and I have been geeking out on this and reading all different kinds of things. So Ayesha found this great study that has been touted like all over, and it's an article that was published in the Harvard Business Review, and it's how women get what they want in negotiations. And it says that research suggests that 20% of women never negotiate at all. And a woman who opts not to negotiate, her starting salary upon graduation will forego an average of $7,000 the first year, and will lose between $650,000 and $1 million over the course of her career. And so why would women leave money on the table? Because that just makes no sense. But it says there are several factors, but one of the ones that we thought was really interesting was when selecting metaphors for the process of negotiation, men call it winning a ball game. Women see it as going to the dentist. I think we all identify with that one. So it's a chore, so we don't want to do it. So there was another article that we came across that took us in the other. So this one is saying, like, you have to negotiate, you have to do it. So then we read another article from Margaret Neal, who's a professor at Stanford, and she actually teaches a seminar in negotiation. And apparently it's a very sought after class, and I want to take it at this point. She says, women are concerned about the reputational risks of negotiating, which is totally true. We're worried about being looked at as the bitch. And they have cause to be concerned. If I negotiate for an increase in my salary and I have a male boss, research suggests I will be penalized in a way that my male counterparts will not be. If I have a female boss, she's going to penalize both males and females. So you get nothing. How you like them apples? We get to do nothing.
And is that why we then just don't ask, right? So there's the big famous book, Women Don't Ask. Because we're not willing to take the risk of being retaliated against and penalized. But at the same point, men are willing to roll that dice because you got a 50-50 shot at actually getting what you want.
Right, because
yes or no.
And if these studies are correct and you have a male boss and you're a man, you're going to be okay. But either way, with a woman, it's never seen as a good thing. So where does that leave us as women? Everybody who's on, please leave your comments in the chat box. We're happy to chat with everybody and see what's going on. You can ask any questions you want. I'm going to pull up my chat box because I'm actually going to put in the chat box the two articles that we're talking about too, because they are just, I think they're hugely helpful.
I think the second article too that you referenced made this great point about, it was lots of great points actually, but the first one was women do better when they're negotiating on behalf of somebody else. So
Oh,
it's a very interesting point of we don't like to ask for ourselves. And I'm going to give you an example. Some of you know that I served on my township council for 4 years. And a big part of what you're supposed to do is fundraise. I didn't want to raise funds for myself. I didn't want to ask people for money for me.
yeah.
It just felt wrong. It felt uncomfortable, right? And I
Mhm.
think we approach salary negotiations in the same way, because I don't want to ask for money for me. Now, I'll tell you the difference, Alyssa. I have no problem, now that I own my own business, drawing the line on what I'm worth and what you're going to pay me if you want to use my services. And it feels uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the easier it
Mhm.
gets. So really using sort of a keep practicing it, keep doing it. And then after, I've been in practice for myself for over 15 years, it's not so hard anymore. It's not so
Yeah,
hard to say, well, I appreciate you asking for a reduction, but that's my rate, right?
right.
But it's different when you're beholden to an employer.
That's true. You have to take a different approach. And I think even when you're talking with clients and you're going, you present a price and they want to negotiate. Um, I think if you approach it differently as, I've had people say to me like, "Oh, well," and it makes me insane because I have a little voice in my head that says, "Oh, if I was a man, you wouldn't say anything." But anyway, um, I actually, from the article, it was very interesting, and I have absolutely done this. Use a communal effect. So that means that what you're offering and why it costs so much is a benefit to everybody.
Mhm.
And and I think that is really, really important because even mentally for us as women, we are fighting for we're asking for a bigger salary because I'm going to make the company better, because these are the problems that your company encounters and we're going to make it better. And for my business to come in and help a small business, um, this is what we can do to make your lives better. So it's not so much about the price, it's more about the offerings of what we have. And it's probably the same for you because you're making their lives better. And this is the end result that I can provide you for this fee.
Right. And I think the bottom line is recognizing and understanding, whether you're a business owner or an employee, that everybody wants something for free, right?
Oh,
Is just the sense of there's the one side of the negotiation that wants your services or whatever you're negotiating for as low of a price as possible. We're seeing that in the sale of our house, right? And
oh God.
the other side wants the highest point, and the negotiation process is how do you get to a number where you're both a little bit unhappy and a little bit
Encounters are going to
happy.
make it better.
You know,
And for my business,
you've done it wrong if everybody is thrilled, or that you're never going to have a situation where everyone's thrilled, but you've done it wrong where one side is just overwhelmingly like, yeah, I'll take that number, right?
Mhm.
So the question then, and I thought this was another key takeaway from that second article, is how do you prepare for negotiation, or do you even prepare for negotiation? And
Yeah.
her takeaway was that women generally don't prepare for a negotiation because you're perceiving this as going to the dentist's office. You do not
Oh,
want to even think about it. You want to spend as little time as possible, even, sort of contemplating the fact that you have to go negotiate something. And that is our biggest mistake. You
mhm.
have to prepare.
We
So
have
what
to
do
look
you
at it
do?
as an opportunity.
Right.
It's an opportunity to do something different and to provide maybe a different viewpoint, because maybe people aren't looking at it in the way that we can ask them to perceive it.
Right.
So one of the questions that you and I were talking about, and I'm sorry, but I loved it. It was about being a parent and what skills do parenting bring to negotiations. Now, we have all negotiated with 3-year-olds. So We know how well that goes. So hopefully it's much better than that. But again, we've negotiated with teenagers too.
Right.
And that's a very me-centric negotiation. They're all about them.
Yeah.
And we're trying to, you know, talk to them in a way. And I wonder if it makes a difference in our makeup, in how we then negotiate at work. Did we learn anything? Does it make us better? Does it make us, I don't know, more
Well,
likely
the
to?
one thing that comes to mind, and as I was writing out and I thought, you know what? I wish negotiation was more like parenting, because because I said so actually works, right? That won't work with your boss or your client or your person you're contracting with. But the process, the give and take, is the
Mhm.
same, right? And so one of the things that I have to do when I negotiate on behalf of a client, or even in negotiating this house sale, right, is you have to sit and really identify each party's objectives. And
Mm,
that's really, really important, is to really be clear on what is it they want, what is it I want, and what are
mhm,
the increments by which I'm willing to move, right, in my negotiation. And then very clearly, what is my bottom line and why? Why is this my
mhm.
drop dead number? And I think you need to have a realistic bottom line, not a, um, well, I want millions, so I'm
Yeah.
willing to take 1 million, right? There needs to be a justifiable basis in what you want and why.
Right.
And I have found that the most successful negotiations always involve a discussion between both sides, talking about what their objectives are and explaining why they cannot go below a certain number. You give
Hmm.
me information. So I'll tell you, for instance, during the negotiation of this house sale contract, we have a lawyer, but he wasn't doing it. So I called up my realtor and I said, look, they've requested certain language, and we're the sellers, right? It's a really straightforward deal. They've requested
Mhm.
certain language to be included in attorney review. And I don't get it, because they already have an inspection clause. Why are they looking to change it? However, if you come back to me and say, here's the rationale, I'm willing to listen to it. I'm
Right.
willing to absolutely say, okay, I understand where you're coming from, right? So I think a very important negotiating strategy is really you've got to sit down for yourself and really
Mhm.
be clear about what it is you want and why. It's not enough to just say, I want this salary, right?
Right.
You got to justify. And yes, as women, we do have to justify. That's the life,
But
right?
and I think you have to. So something that people have said to me, and it still shocks me to this day that people say this to me. They say, "Well, I should get paid more because I have expenses," or
And the
even when
rest
you're
of us are living in a refrigerator box.
apparently we don't have expenses,
Right.
but it's like even so every year we raise our prices because we have more expertise, because we've been able to provide really good service, we've increased your revenues, whatever the reason is. It's not because we have more expenses that you should pay us more. It's because we have done amazing work for you. And if you can focus on that, and so, my sister-in-law is out there looking for work, and, she has a skill set that is truly unique and amazing, and she's having a hard time with it. So that's what one of the things we talked about is, what can you say to get the person who's sitting in front of you to understand what you have is amazing and why you should get paid. If the salary is between 70 and 90, why should you get paid 90?
Right.
And 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 I think a woman's negotiation, like you said, find out ahead of time what's your bottom line and why,
Right.
and have that in your head before you go and do role play with somebody.
Yeah. And in fact, if you're looking for a job, you can actually on the internet now find average salary data, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
you can say, well, this is really what's comparable for somebody of my educational background, my skill set, my years of experience, the places where I've worked. This is what I bring to the table. And frankly, that's average in the industry. You know,
Right.
I'm trying to work with you as well. Like, I'm not asking you for the top dollar, but look,
Right.
here's an objective benchmark. You know, it's really important. I think at this point also, I'm going to bring up that last year, our lieutenant governor signed into law a bill that went into effect January 1st, and it precludes employers from asking any applicant their prior salary history. So that
Hmm.
used to be that you
I
would
like that.
always, and especially for women, right? So we're here in 2020 and we're still talking about gender pay disparity. And
Hmm.
for women, that used to be a big thing, is they would come in with the same qualifications, the same years of experience, the same educational background as a man, but because of systemic bias that sort of over the years, they're failing to negotiate a price, right? They're failing to ask for the raise, put them at a lower salary. So
Hmm.
then when the new employer says, well, what's your salary, right? What's your past salary?
What's your
Um,
salary history? Hmm.
exactly. So then you immediately started out this new job at a lower salary because
Yeah.
they're saying, okay, well, you made 100,000, so we'll give you 102, while the man was making 115 already. Same
Yeah.
qualifications, same job, same education.
Hmm.
So now in New Jersey, it is against the law, unless you're looking for a job within the same company. So, you know, promotions or lateral moves within the same organization, it is against the law to ask your salary history. Now, you can volunteer it. Some employers, as part of the application, may say, if you want, you can sign a waiver and say, okay, I'm willing to let you contact my prior employer and ask my salary history. But there is a provision in that law that also says if you refuse to sign that waiver, they cannot retaliate against you, right?
Really? But is
And they
but
can't retaliate if you go to HR and say, well, I hear Bob is making 150. I want to know
Mm.
if that's true. They can't retaliate against you. Now, play that out in practical terms.
In reality, how does
Yeah.
that work? Yeah, not well. But I think there's ways around it too. I mean, just like what we were talking about, you find out what the salary is. And if they can't ask, I mean, or if they do ask and they want to know, I think that, and
I
negotiate, and
think
when
you
you're,
don't tell, right?
yeah,
Now, if
I
you're an
agree.
employer and you're listening to this, you want to be really careful about this because they've built in some pretty steep penalties into the statute. So
Really?
if you get busted for asking this question, right? What's your salary history? You need to go back and actually look at your employment forms and make sure you take that box off of your application,
Oh, wow.
because
Yeah.
if it's still on your application, you're going to have an issue. I see in our chat list, we have Jason Meyer, who does a lot of employment law on the employer side, and others who are actually employers. So go back and check your forms to make
Yeah.
sure that it's not still on there, because someone can raise an issue against you. But I think it's an important, um, it's an important consideration from the employee side, because you need to know what they can and cannot ask you, right?
Mhm.
And that now this is one of the, this is something that is actually quite unique and is not across the board in other states. As Alisa was saying, because of all of our pandemic states being blocked out, it's actually good to be from Jersey.
Oh my God. I know. So I grew up in Massachusetts. So when someone asks me where I'm from, I always say Massachusetts. Right now, I mean, actually it's okay to be in Massachusetts too, but now I'm like, oh, I'm from Jersey. Yeah. No, we're COVID careful. We're COVID clean.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah. Now so when I hire somebody, I actually hire them at the value they are to me.
That's right.
I mean, I don't care what they made before. I
Right.
really, really don't. I mean, I know there's people on my staff that may have made significantly more when they worked someplace else. And I know there's people who made significantly less. But when they have a skill set that I need, and something that, I'm going to train them in a certain way, I pay them for what they're worth. Um, I have negotiated with men on salaries to work for me, and they've always asked for more, and I've always told them no. Because I really do hire for what people are worth to me.
Right. And I think
So
it's actually very, very fair, because the fact was you weren't trying to lowball this employee to get him in the door, right?
yeah,
The fact is you are an entrepreneur and you decided that this is what that skill is worth. And it
yeah,
wasn't based on, oh, if I get a man, it's going to be X. And if I get a woman, it's going to be X minus, or X plus, because we're women,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But ultimately, you know, I don't know where the reaction of women bosses comes from.
yeah.
I don't certainly hold it against anybody if they ask for a different number, because I recognize that that's part of the game, right? Now, it's my job on my end, either as the negotiator or the employer, to say, no, I'm not willing to do that. Or yes, I can evaluate the situation and I can listen to your reasoning, and I'm
Mhm.
willing to do X. So part of that planning process in any conversation, whether you're hiring somebody or whether you're negotiating a contract, is to know also, think outside the box a little bit, right? Think about, this doesn't have to be about straight salary, right? This could be about
Yeah,
a different way of looking at benefits, or a different way of looking at comp time. Look, this is the position, this is what it pays. This is what I advertised it at. I'm not willing to negotiate on that. However, I understand where you're coming from. And if you're telling me that you had a 2-week vacation that's already planned and paid for, then I'm willing to increase the vacation time, or
right.
something. There has to be some movement and some flexibility.
And
But at the
I
same
do,
time, hold
I
your
agree.
line.
I do. I totally agree. I know that, I'm actually surprised when people don't negotiate salary wise with me. Like I hired someone a couple of years ago, and I offered the salary, and they said, "Oh, I would like it to be X." And I said, "I tell you what, um, let's do." I don't normally include this salary in our profit sharing plan. I will, in 6 months, if all these criteria are met, I'll include you in the profit sharing plan, and you'll make at least as much as that, if not more.
Right.
So it was a win-win for both of us, because if she is hitting all these markers that she was going to hit anyway, if she was going to be a good employee, it wasn't like crazy things. It was just normal, what I needed her to do. I knew my company would be more profitable, and giving her part of that profit,
Right.
100% worth it. But
One
it
of the
was,
things you talk about that I absolutely love, right, is you really look at your team as your family, right? So you're
oh yeah,
you're building this team. I love that you do check-ins with them. You're doing check-ins not just from are you on task with the projects, but just, like, you guys okay, right? Just especially during time of COVID.
yeah,
I think all employers should approach the hiring process, and most employers do, from the I want you to stay with me forever, right?
yeah,
Um, but I see a long and fruitful relationship here, but I just can't give you that money that you're asking for.
hmm,
However, I love what you did. I love that you incentivized a longer term plan, right? Who doesn't want to be part of profit sharing? That's fantastic.
yeah.
And what
Especially
about
if you have some control over it too, you know?
exactly. Exactly. And then, you also have to be pretty good at evaluating, right? So you need to as an employer, part of your ongoing negotiation, right, is I want this person to stay with me.
Mm,
I need to look at their metrics. If they're in a sales role, is it working out? If they're in, if they're developing more billable hours per client, right? Is that a good thing in terms of now, is profit sharing enough, right?
Right.
Was the percentage enough? How do we, you know, it's really all about the big picture. And, but you as an entrepreneur have to know that.
And you're saying big picture, and we're talking communal. And it's all, that's where women come from, is it. And you just made me realize that my solution was a communal solution, in the sense that you do better for our community, you're going to be rewarded.
Right,
So and maybe that was why it was so acceptable to her, because as a woman, that spoke what she understood. And
right,
so maybe as employers and employees, we can start to adopt that. And I actually think it would work for everyone. Even I know that even millennials, and I have a bunch of millennial nieces, nephews, and children, they want quality of life. And I
right.
think quality of life talks about that communal, like how does that benefit everything? And so when we do those negotiations, my nephew's in negotiations. He wants to work from home forever now. And it's all about making his life better. So, what does that look like, and how do you negotiate that? And I definitely think that we're onto something here, that's not only women, it totally, and I think women speak from this position anyway. And like you were saying at the beginning, we speak better from this position anyway. We do really well when we talk about representing somebody else. And so if we can mentally, instead of, Jason Meyer put some stuff in the chat box that, what, I want to help you. He says, does the approach, change over to, does changing it to, I want to help you. And if we can start to think about the negotiations instead of for ourselves, like we're being greedy or whatever
Right.
crap that we tell ourselves in our head, if we can approach it as, how can I help you do things better? Because we as women are helpers. It's win-win for everybody, because no matter who you're talking to, a male or a female boss, they both respond well to that.
Right. And I think that that also factors into non-monetary negotiations, right? So the most ugly negotiation is one where both sides are, you know, fighting over a pot of money, right?
Oh,
But negotiations happen in, I want this project. I want, you know, I want more visibility, just in every aspect of our life. So if you practice your negotiation skills in the non-monetary context, it becomes much easier in the monetary context because it's more natural to you. When I negotiate on behalf of my firm, it's much easier for me to negotiate in that context, or in behalf of my client, even
yeah.
though I ultimately benefit from that, right? But
Hmm.
as I gave the example of asking for money for my campaign, just felt wrong because it was clearly just asking for money from me.
I
Now,
know.
I know that
But
I've been told, right, that like men say, and others, right, adopt, other politicians would adopt the perspective of, you need somebody like me to represent your interests.
hmm.
I just, I hated
but
asking for money.
but I think if women can practice the mindset that you're not asking for money for you,
That's right.
that you are asking, even as a female politician, I am asking money so that we can further these initiatives.
Right.
I just happen to be bringing these initiatives forward, and this is what I'm fighting for. So this is really where the money's going to go.
Right.
So I think if we just can, retell that story in our head differently, and
Right.
start to know that, what we're fighting for is, a better life for ourselves, but it's also about making the world that we're involved in better, whether it be at work, whether it's negotiating with your kids or your husband, or, even family members, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, anyone that you're negotiating with. If you can talk about it as a communal effect,
Right.
I actually think that's better. all around. We are coming up. We have 1 minute left.
Yeah.
We are going to be back here next Thursday at same time, same place, same faces. Looking forward to seeing everybody. And
I think your key takeaway is prepare and practice. Just practice negotiating, practice on your kids, right? Practice whatever you're doing, start being intentional about it. So I think that seemed to just be the big
yeah.
takeaway as part of the preparation was practice.
Yep. Do your research, practice, role play, give yourself a good pep talk.
Right.
All right. It was great seeing everybody. Have a good week, and we'll see everybody next Thursday.
Thank you for being here.
All right. It's great
Bye.
seeing you. Bye.